All right, everybody, good evening here for KC Happy Hour 52. My studio is a little bit different than the last few weeks, really the entirety of the show, and it's about to change. It's been a week of moving for myself here. We're moving to a different apartment, well, actually a house over here in Dallas, Texas. So that's all going on as we get set for the SKUSA SummerNationals. So apologies about the lackluster background, but hey, all my stuff got put in a U-Haul truck today and it's gone. Nonetheless, we've got an awesome show coming your way here before we get set to head up to Indianapolis this weekend. We've got a panel of analysts. I don't have any active drivers that'll be racing this weekend. We're going to be saving that for the post-race show to hear from the winners, the guys who had good weekends, the guys who didn't have good weekends, and as always, the guys maybe had a little bit of drama on the racetrack to help them break it down when their heads are a little bit cooler on Tuesday. Let's go ahead and we'll bring in our crew we've got here tonight. Of course, Aaron Hackmeister is here with me as always. Caleb Smock will be taking the weekend off before coming on for our doubleheader weekend over at the Route 66 race at MCC, but he'll be there, and a Hoosier native would be great, obviously, for Indy. And then we go to Braden Eves, who joins us back. He was supposed to be on the entry list, not on the entry list, which means he gets to be an analyst tonight. Emery Lida joins us. Dalton Haynes joins us as well. So we've got ourselves an awesome crew of people to talk about. And Aaron, we've got a few races, of course, that first up went over the weekend. Let's break those down a little bit. This was one that went north of the border. The Cup Karts North America Canada division had their second race of the season. They went up in entries, if I'm not mistaken, from that first race they had not too long ago. Aaron, can you break us down a little bit what we went down up north of the border?
Yeah, so this was round two of the CKNA Canada division. It's the first year for them out at Goodwood, and they ended up actually pulling more numbers. So the first weekend was 110 entries, and then that was followed up by 135, 140 entries out in Goodwood. And the numbers are actually all great. Every class was in the double digits. They ended up with 20 in cadets, 20 in masters, and they were at, if not just barely under 40 for senior medium, which is just about the same as what we hope to see in any race like out here. So they've done an awesome job out there. I would say last week that when I was in Toronto, they did a really good job with the run series up there. It's the same. I don't think it's the same group of people, but they're making sure that everything's doing really well. I've heard good things about what happened out there. So they had a really good weekend over there. A lot of eventful stuff. One thing I noticed, and I just kind of wanted to point out real quickly, they have a junior light class out there. So they have two junior classes along with a senior light, medium, and heavy, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah, which is something the Canadians have done for a little bit because, of course, we forget sometimes, even though Briggs is an American company, that motor took off quicker in Canada than it did on the state side for the number of classes that it had, but also the turnout that it did because they were so set on their Rotax and then kind of clone or Honda format for a long, long time. And the 206 really replaced that. And then obviously eventually found a really good footing here stateside. But like you said, Aaron, good turnout for them. The SKUSA warm-up test weekend was an interesting weekend on its own. This clip or picture we've got to represent it, of course, is from Smoking Fast Matt Johnson on a section of the racetrack that is not going to be used this year. That was, of course, from the ski jump section, which uses an extra part of the racetrack, uses one of the high banked ovals, kind of packs the field up a little bit, but the downhill drop over the curbing adds some technicality back into the course. They're running the track on the national layout backwards. We've seen that last year, if I'm not mistaken. No, Maybe I am. We've run it before on the SKUSA Pro Tour. I think we ran it on that double race, the double SummerNats. 2020 was when we saw them go backwards on the racetrack, and we saw USPKS do something similar, but they use a little bit of a cut through to be able to go through there as well. You can see the winners coming across the board. Norberg winning an X30 Senior actually was a little bit interesting, not because he won, but because he really didn't dominate throughout the weekend. And we talked about it. He's even said it on the show. He thinks it could be coming this week. We'll talk about that more. And then in Pro Shifter, AJ Myers was on top of the boards, but the Pro Shifter field is bigger than it's been all season. It is 23 drivers strong, and one of those was a newly assigned driver that we talked to in an interview. Danny Formel was on the move, obviously, during the summer months. We're doing a lot of car racing, got an opportunity with RPG to join them as a full-time driver coach, or at least I should say part-time. It works around every car racing weekend he has. They put him in the seat for the test weekend. He said he's on the entry list, texted me, said, Xander, we are a go for SummerNats. He is one of the 23 guys that will be competing in Pro Shifter. And then in terms of silly season as well, Pauly Massimino moving from the RPM Tony Kart camp, leaving Jeremy Fletcher alone over there, joins up with Austin Garrison under Speed Concepts Racing and CRG. They will be the only two SCR CRGs for the weekend. Cameron Weinberg and Jack Jeffers will not be in attendance. They ran the test weekend as well. Overall, boys, obviously some moves around the horn to begin it. I don't know. What would you guys rate as the bigger one? Danny Formel going to RPG. Could he have a bigger impact? Pauly finding footing at CRG. I mean, the CRGs have been really fast. Austin Garrison's been good. Which one do you think is bigger overall? Dalton?
I think it'll definitely move Pauly forward. Honestly, Formel, I think, is a bigger move just because of how much success he's had on that FK chassis. Like, there's not much more you can do in Shifter, you know. He already won everything on the FK. So I think him moving is like a big decision for him because he's got car racing and now he's doing with RPG. RPG's already dominated all of X30 Senior. So I think it's really important. I think they're really going to start focusing on Shifter. That's why they got him probably. And for the coaching too. He knows what he's doing, obviously. Pauly, I definitely think he'll move up a little bit. He hasn't been able to really like get into the top three with a lot of pace. He's always had to like fight through a little bit. And I know he was like really getting annoyed with that at RPM. So I think that with him on the CRG, obviously he's not one of those drivers that's only driven an OTK. He drove a top card at one point. And I think he'll definitely like that CRG. I think he'll move through the field a little bit more than some people are going to expect him to. So I think Formel is just a slightly bigger deal.
Speaking on Formel and Shifter, Braden, we go to you for a SKUSA Pro Tour history lesson. You've obviously been running X30 Senior at a number of their events. We've seen OTK chassis seem to struggle with different drivers, and RPG has spearheaded that program to try and get some of them going. They signed Kyle Wick back to the team, who had run with them for a while after he won his championship in 2019 with CRG. Didn't really seem to work for him. Austin Garrison, again, just didn't really seem to be a good fit. You think Formel makes that OTK work? You obviously have a lot of experience making some chassis that people don't think are fast go fast.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I'm not really sure that we'll see much out of the norm. I think Danny Formel, especially with how big he is, can kind of make any chassis work. But I think that if there is any chassis that you would probably struggle with more being a bigger guy, it probably would be the OTK just because it has a lot of grip. Generally, OTKs always have a little bit of trouble with, as the rubber gets laid down. So, but no, I think Danny Formel can kind of just muscle it around and make it do what he wants. So I think he'll just be right back at the front where he was.
Well, we'll have to see. SummerNats was not kind to him last year. They had some engine issues that kind of marred him down the field, while as Brent Cruz had a standout weekend on the Leading Edge Motorsports FK. There's a bunch of new guys that are joining that group here this weekend. We're going to talk a little bit about them, and especially Aaron's going to help kind of lead us in to the championship talk when we come back from the break. But before we go to break here, we wanted to talk a little bit. We got kind of an interesting viewer question I had submitted to me earlier this week, and it was about sponsorship, and I wanted to give it a little bit of light while we're doing this SummerNats preview episode, which is obviously what this one's heavily about besides some other notes. But Braden and Dalton are two perfect examples of drivers that have obviously been able to find personal sponsorship to continue racing in both karts, and then obviously in Braden's case to do a heck of a lot of racing in cars, and has a lot that's been able to make it happen for him. So in terms of basic things, obviously, to go over, but also stuff that they maybe would have wished they learned a little bit sooner. I wanted to give them some airtime, and then obviously my thoughts, because we get some parents that ask about this. Obviously, racing's an expensive sport. You're looking to find ways to get it funded. We're doing everything we can here on the KC side, and the series are doing a fantastic job as well. Every single series, you can see the Stars series, SKUSA, Route 66, USPKS, Rock. They're on social media. They're promoting where they can. But how do you get that kind of funding? What do you need to know? What kind of mindset to have? So, Braden, your mindset with sponsorship as a guy who's had to get it on a bigger level for car racing, but on the karting level stuff too. Is there anything you wish you would have known prior to this point?
I mean, it's really just just in life in general, it shouldn't really just be for getting sponsors, but you always want to be kind and friendly to everyone. You want to let your personality shine through, especially when it comes to racing, because especially when you're young, you're like 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. You might get an interview here and there, and obviously with Kart Chaser doing what they're doing, you guys are doing nowadays, there's a lot more opportunities for drivers to learn, more of the PR side. So I think it's really just, you always have to be kind and friendly to everyone, let your personality shine through. Don't be so nervous on cameras, because, I remember I used to put a lot of pressure on myself to try and be a certain way or try to look a certain way on the cameras when I was younger. But honestly, if you just are yourself and you just let your personality shine through it, things will take care of itself.
Dalton, what about you? Stuff you wish you would have learned a little bit sooner that maybe would have helped?
I definitely think in karting, since it's not necessarily like car racing, it's not a huge group. It's more of a smaller group of people, and it's a karting world, really. So I'd say just getting to know everyone, really talking with everyone around the pits, really just like Braden said, being kind to everyone, yeah, but also if you really need sponsorship and you really need to, going up to people, seeing what they can do for you, like you said, being kind to the people so that when you do need help, or if you don't need help now and you do need help, they can help you out with it if you ask for it at the right time. A lot of people don't like necessarily just handing out money. You have to have something in return when you ask for sponsorship. So stuff that you can have in return is saying, well, some of the smaller kids say, here, if you can help me out now, then I'll give you a percentage of my income from racing. If I do make it in the future, they give you about 5% or 10% of what they make in the future. They say, put them on a contract and you say, if you give me this certain amount of money now, I'll give you 5% of everything I make in the future. And I mean, if you have to do that, you have to do that. It's any way you have to get money, really. Honestly, the sport is so expensive. You have to do what you got to do,
Yep. And again, we had a great comment come in here on the comment section from one of our regular viewers, Neo Gothic Racing, saying sponsorship's easy. Treat it as a business. When you're sponsored, you're speaking for that company that's sponsoring you. Go out, talk to people, get out there. And to build off that, really, like what Braden's saying and like what Dalton's saying, like nurturing relationships, I think is the biggest thing that a lot of people could be doing a whole lot sooner. And by that, not just going out and networking as a kid for any kids. And we do have a lot of kids that come back and watch this show, watch some of the clips, or listen to what we do, or pay attention to the broadcast. The first thing you can try and do is come out of your shell. Like Braden said, you may look up to certain people and you may want to be like them. And that's great to model after them, but don't put pressure on yourself that you feel like you have to act a certain way. And don't tear yourself down when you watch interviews or watch videos of yourself. Get to a point where it's no different than, watching your own onboards on the racetrack and critiquing them of how you want to talk. If you feel like you could have done a little better, if you feel like you could have come off a little better, you can be a little bit critical, but in a positive way. But the end of the day, if you're worried about looking cool on camera, the cool people at the racetrack are the people that win and run up at the front. And whatever they are, however they are, how they dress, how they talk, how they look, that becomes cool. So if you do perform and you run up front, who you are as a person will be the cool thing. If you're a kid that wants to look cool on camera or feels like you have to be a certain way, or just, again, looking professional, at the end of the day, standing out to a degree is important. You don't want to look like a clown, but you want to at least have some flair and have a little bit of flavor to yourself. And then from a sponsorship standpoint, when you're younger, like what Dalton said, we're in a very smaller, a much smaller base than, say, some of the car racing series are. In certain cases, we're equal when you compare it to maybe amateur car racing like Spec Miata racing, local club racing for car racing, stuff like that. The audiences is probably about the same. You look at the Road to Indy, you look at the MX5 Cup Series, that's obviously a bit of a bigger audience. And you're running as a support series at a much bigger show. So there are more fan engagement that you can use to kind of pitch. But let's say you want to do that stuff down the road, or you want to get some help and down the road, then you maybe don't need it, or you can get by without it now. And running some free logos on your cart and treating it as if it's a real sponsorship deal, even if all you're doing is giving them logo placement and thanking them in social posts and working on that for year one, is how you nurture that relationship too. It doesn't have to be just that you kind of butter someone up, for lack of a better word, and be friends with everybody, and then your friends can help you out later. If you can act like they're a sponsor, throw them on, and that's another way where you can show them what that value is, where it's not costing you anything to put their logo on, because nobody knows whether or not you're getting paid by them or not, but treat them like a real sponsor. And then maybe they're going to eventually warm up to the idea or see the value that you're bringing them, whether it's more eyeballs on your social accounts, more eyeballs on the broadcast, etc. And then they can help you out down the line when you need it. So when you don't need the help is the time when you should be looking for it, to kind of prime yourself for it a little bit later down the road. And this obviously needs its own show on its own with some more drivers. And we'd love to get a few more pro drivers in here as well, like Braden, like guys who have climbed the ladder, to get a whole lot of funding behind them, because that is a whole different world. Like Dalton said, there's all kinds of ways you can sell future income. There's B2B deals. There's a lot. And we know we got a lot of parents that are watching that as well. So those stuff will be coming. But first, we got a race this weekend. We want to talk about it. We want to give some love to everybody that's running up front. So we're going to take a commercial break, come back, and highlight some of the top classes we got coming into the season finale of the SKUSA Pro Tour here in Newcastle, Indiana.
KC Happy Hour is presented by Precision Performance Karting. PPK is the exclusive South Florida distributor for the American-made Coyote Zenith kart racing chassis. PPK is offering trackside support at all the Cup Kart South Division events, the CKNA majors, including the Spring Nats and the Grand Nats, the Sunshine State Karting Challenge, and a number of club events in the Southeast. New here for 2022 and in partnership with Brandon Jarscrack Racing, PPK is also offering full arrive and drive opportunities in the Junior Senior Briggs 206 classes at the popular Stars Championship Series and the GoPro Motorplex Karting Challenge events. The same professionally prepared kart and motor package has propelled Brandon to victories at Winter Nationals and the Monticello Divisional in 2022 are available to you. In addition to the Coyote line of racing chassis, Precision Performance Karting is also a distributor for Odenthal Racing products, Hilliard clutches, Vega tires, and Greyhound racing seats. Check out Precision Performance Karting on Facebook and Instagram, or email them at ppkartingfl@gmail.com.
As the Western importer of the Praga and Formula K chassis brands, Leading Edge Motorsports is a high-performance kart shop and race team with a simple mission: teach others the joy of high-performance driving, supply our customers with the highest quality products and services, and most of all, win races. With our remarkable racing inventory, expert services, and top-ranked national-level team to back it up, we'll help to get your new kart racing package up and running fast. From arrive and drive service to kart preparation and driver coaching to the parts you need to get you back on the racetrack, Leading Edge Motorsports is the industry answer. All right, everybody, welcome back to KC Happy Hour, episode number 52. We've got our full panel of analysts here. And Aaron, you've already gone through, you made some notes on the two headline divisions. Let's kick it off with Pro Shifter. What do you got for us coming into championship weekend?
Yeah, coming into this final weekend, you're pretty much looking at Marian Kremers for the championship. He's got to have something real. He's got to get sent to the pond both days, essentially, for anybody to have a shot at catching him. He has won every qualifying and every pre-final so far. He completely swept the weekend at NOLA, and then still pulled a huge points gap coming out of Utah, and so he's got like 110 points over AJ Myers, factoring in the drop they get right now. However, that battle from second to fourth right now is super close. You have AJ Myers, Kyle Wick, and Jacob Gulick, and they're only 70 points separated right now. So you're going to see a really hard fight between those guys, especially on Sunday, where, you're going to want to focus on those guys on track because they're going to be fighting for the championship, not just on track position, but they might need to fight somebody else, one of those guys harder to cost them a spot if it comes down to like a race on track for that second or third spot in the championship. And so it's been super tight. Outside of Marian Kremers, he's KZ world champion, whatever, super good. And he's been the class of the field. But after that, it's been super close and a flip of the coin for who's going to win which race outside of that.
Which we'll get to, obviously, in a little bit. We've definitely got, like he said in Pro Shifter, in the same deal, an X30 senior, Ryan Norberg, with a big gap over everybody, 200 points. But beyond that, pretty open for the fight for second. Jeremy Fletcher, Pauly Massimino, Kremers there, Pedro Hiltbrand are all within 100 points of P2 when you factor in drops. We saw the shifter class get closer in Utah by Sunday. Obviously, Kyle Wick, AJ Myers right there with Marian the entire way for that main event. And Marian ended up coming in third, which cost him a little bit of money not throwing it in for second. But let's go ahead. We're going to talk top five here in a little bit later on the show. If you got someone pegged for the win, we're going to stay away from X30. Norberg's an obvious favorite coming into the weekend. We'll see if anyone wants to speak their mind beyond that. But let's go around the horn for our top guy for Pro Shifter this weekend. No on the entry list. You had to pick one. We're going to pick five a little bit later on. Caleb, let's send it over to you. Who you got as your overall top finisher this week?
Yeah, you're leading with me, aren't you? I'm going to say Formal. I think the new change to the team is going to be something that's interesting. I think that him with Rolison is going to be kind of like them trying to start the program. So I feel like he's probably going to come out with a win for it. And obviously with last year, all the troubles he had, he's probably wanted to improve off of that.
Emery, what do you got? Top guy, Pro Shifter, overall, just one.
Man, I think it's got to be Kremers. I mean, you look at his pace down in NOLA and even in Utah, even if the results didn't quite match up in the finals. Like, I mean, until someone looks like they can outpace him for the whole weekend, I have to give the benefit of the doubt. And I think it's going to be closer than what we saw at points over the course of this year, but I just can't pick him against Marian Kremers.
Braden, what do you got?
I'm going to go for an alternate pick here and say Andrew Boydeso.
Oh,
Magic Kart Boys. They've definitely got shifter figured out. And I don't want to say AJ just because he's an easy pick, so I'll say Andrew Boydeso.
Dalton, what do you got? You got the wild man Bajoso too?
The one, I'd pay him like $200. He deserves it. He would deserve it if he won. But I'm gonna go Kremers. I'm just racing with him. That dude's insane. He's like the perfect karting driver. Like, he doesn't make mistakes whenever you're behind him. Even if, like, sometimes his kart's not handling well. Like, the Burrell isn't necessarily the best kart for X30 Senior most of the time. The OTKs are a lot easier to drive, and he wheels that thing. You can never count him out. So I'm just going to put him in shifter number one.
Aaron, finish it off. What do you got?
You guys are too basic, man. You got Marin, obviously. Danny, I'm actually not 100% sure on Danny. I think he ran an OTK and shifter like 4 or 5 years ago, and it wasn't like the best for him, if I remember right. I think he ran OTK shifter for like a race or two. And it didn't work the best, but, that was 4 or 5 years, however long ago it was, if I remember right. So he could very well do really well. I don't think the OTK is a bad card at all. Taking a shifter, they still do really well in KZ stuff out there. I'm actually with Braden here with Andrew Bajoso because he hasn't run the full season or anything, but Newcastle is definitely his jam, and I think he'll be if he's on it, he's going to be hard to beat for sure.
I think everybody is throwing a lot of shade by not even touching Jake French. When you go back here this year, and he had the wildest finish I think Pro Shifter's ever seen. Going 3 wide across the line, put it in the barriers to beat AJ, to beat Brent Cruz at the checkered. So, I mean, obviously, spotlight's been on Marian. He's been phenomenal everywhere we go. Every time we come to Newcastle, Jake French is super, super fast. It's to where he secured his first Pro Tour title in Pro Shifter. I think he could be a big threat. I'd like to see him. I think it'd be a feel-good victory for a lot of people. Obviously, Andrew Bajoso, if you like the wild man, the Tim Richmond, Mr. Hollywood type partier at the racetrack, that's your guy. But Jake French has come up as a bridesmaid more, I think, than I've seen out of anybody, and that's including his teammate Marion with second place results. You go back to Kyle Wick. He was out front. Wick ran him down, beat him with 2 laps to go. So I think, I don't know. I think Jake French could get it done, but obviously Marion is super fast, and this is one of the few tracks on the U.S. schedule he's coming back to that he actually has raced at before, and of course had some controversy at before. And that is a great lead into the X30 top 5, so let's go into that as well here. We know that everyone's got picks. Caleb, I like picking on you because it's easy and you take it really well. So what's your 5 here for the X30 Pro Fantasy?
Are we doing 5 or are we just doing 1 to start right now?
Actually, you're right. Aaron, you know what? Let's make some more sense out of this. Who's your other 4 you got for your shifter stuff besides Danny?
Let me just scroll my list back up. Well, I was going to actually change mine to French, but of course it's still a spotlight, so I'll put him as number 2. And then after that, let's go with Kyle Wick for 3. 4, you know what? Let's go for underdogs or returning vets. So I'll go Billy Musgrave for 4. And then we'll do Wildman Bajoso for 5.
Musgrove's not a returning vet. Do you mean Jordan Musser?
Yeah,
Billy Musgrave.
I mean, he's run the whole season. He got like the whole.
I meant like coming back for a win. He hasn't had a win in a while.
Oh, he does.
Okay.
He has not had a
you
win
would talk
in a
about
while.
a feel-good story, American made, an American kart, in a Hoosier state. You can't get any more feel-good than that.
Okay. All right, Mr. USA. Braden, what's the rest of your top 5?
So I want to say, obviously, so I picked Badoso for P1. I'd say Kremers P2 because he's not going to finish anywhere but P1 or P2. Then I'll go AJ Myers P3. I will say Jake French P4 and David Greco P5.
Okay, solid. Aaron, what do you got?
All right, so I'm gonna do the same thing I do in X30. I'm not picking Marn. I don't care. So I've got Jake French. Jake French is actually the first on my list, even though I picked Bugioso. I was between the 2 of them, and so I picked Bugioso. I'm gonna say French and Bugioso in the top 2 in any order. Danny Formel and AJ Myers, probably AJ over Danny for 3rd and 4th, and then I really want to see Jordan Musser do well this weekend. He's on the entry list in senior. He's run Masters for a long time, and he's coming out here. He's running senior, and I hope he does really well. So I'm actually putting him in the 5th spot overall for the weekend.
Okay, it's been a long time since we've seen him. I think at least at a SKUSA level go and run pro shifter. So yeah, I mean we're talking about a guy who was a former S1 guy before aging out to go run Masters, and yeah, cool to see him back. That's another good storyline. There's a few storylines that I want to hit on once we get to the rest of our top 5. Jordan Musser is absolutely one of them. Emery?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Kremers as P1, as I already mentioned. I really think Jake French is due for a good weekend. I think he could challenge, and so I think all of them is my second guy. I'm not really big on the order between like 2 through 5, but I would say French is my second guy. I'll go Bidoso and Myers, both P3 and P4. Again, Magic have obviously got their stuff figured out. This is a good track for Andrew. AJ's been quick everywhere he goes in a shifter. And then I'm going to throw in Talon Yako in P5 just because I saw the pace he had up at Stars at Newcastle. And yes, it's a slightly different layout. Yes, there's much bigger competition here. But, I mean, he's looked decent. He had okay pace in Utah, and I feel like Newcastle's a track that's a lot more comfortable with him. So I'll throw in Yako as a P5 kind of underdog pick on that one.
Well, that'd be a heck of a one. And again, I didn't exactly set up the whole rookie delineation of who is going to be set as one or not. I would put Talon Yako as a shifter rookie, obviously, this year, so he could be a good sleeper rookie pick. And there's a few more in the field. Dalton, the rest of your top 5.
So I put Martin P1. I'm going to go with safe. Like I'm going to go French P2, AJ P3. It's a tough battle for 4th because I have no idea how good Danny's going to do. I don't think that the OTK is going to be very good in shifter. I don't think it's ever been this hot kart and shifter for a while now. I'll put Jacob Gulick P4 and Formal P5.
All right, fair enough. And a surprise pick there with Gulick, especially. I think Kyle Wick, I think, is getting slept on a little bit in our picks here. Hannah Greenemeyer was top 5 both days at Utah. Give it to the home track, but I mean, she won it, her title at Newcastle by running up front last year in X30. let's go through some of the other names. Obviously, Hunter Pickett was on track, I think, for a double podium, ended up in for a failure on one of the days at Utah, but podiumed on one of the two. And this is a track he's been strong at before. And then just looking through the rest of the field, you've got some names. The youth movement's kind of moving over to the shifter class. We talked about, how the X30 numbers were down. We're at 27 on pre-entries for X30. We're up at 23 in pro shifter. K stuff's fine. K is 40 plus for both. Mini and micro are solid. X30 junior is a little bit light, which is a whole other subject for the show. But if you want to look at the youth names that we've got on the list, Adam Brickley is on after running the Stars race. And Charlie Steins is another young name that's joining into the group. Obviously, Hannah's not too young. Philip Niemkowicz, former, multi-year single-speed guy, jumping over to X30 in a similar boat as Hannah. And a few more on there that, I don't know, ultimately add up. It doesn't take a whole lot to get a class from 15 to 25, but they are up at 23, which we're seeing a few comments here in the section asking for the entry list. The entry list gets released officially through the e-karting news section. We'll have the entries for at least Pro Shifter and X30 available on the Fantasy League to pick in a little bit. But if I had to go top 5, I think Kyle Wick's got to go in it. He was in the top. I think he pulled it one of the 2 days last year by putting it in the grass, but he was still really quick overall. Obviously, AJ Myers is a safe pick. Jake French is a safe pick. I feel like Marian Kremers would be pick number 4. And don't get me wrong, got a lot of love for Danny, but I'd put Hunter Pickett as my number 5 just because it's the first weekend. We'll see how he does, but I don't know where that would end up. But nonetheless, 23, big pro shifter field. And I don't know, a shift over from what we're used to seeing of 40 plus in X30 senior. And this time it seems like a few more people are jumping straight up from junior ranks over to it. And then on the X30 side, a couple new names that we'll talk about here this week. Let's go over. I know you guys have your top 5s ready, so let's pass it around for that again. Emery, why don't you kick it off here?
All right, so next 30, I mean, you've got to start with Ryan Norberg, but I think this could be the weekend he goes down. I'm actually going to go with all 3 of the Burrell Arc guys. I think you got to go Ramos, you got to go Kremers, you've got to go with Philip Brands. I'm going to add in Norberg. And for the rookie pick, I'm not entirely set on Jeremy Fletcher, but I think this is a little bit of a lighter weekend in rookies just because you don't have Weinberg around, you don't have Jack Jeffers, Justin Adaconis isn't here. And I think Fletcher had good promise up in Utah. We saw some potential in Road America, so I'll have him as my rookie pick.
All right. Let's go ahead and move on over here. Caleb, what do you got for your 5 for X30 Pro?
Okay. I think it's going to be a crapshoot in the top 5. So I'm going to say Marian Kremers P1. I'm going to say Norberg P2, Massimino 3, Mossman 4. That's my wild card, my rookie. And then P5, I'll go with Diego Ramos.
Okay, safe, especially with how good Ramos was up at Road America. Braden, what's your X30 top 5?
I'm going to say Pauly Massimino gets the win on debut with CRG.
Ooh.
I'm going to say we have Diego Ramos P2, Kremers P3, Fletcher P4, and Norberg P5.
All right. Aaron, what do you got?
I'm, again, with Braden on this. I think Pauly's coming out hot with CRG. He's going to win at least one, if not both of the days. And then following up with him, I want to go Frankie Mossman as my rookie pick. I'm going to list him second because he had a phenomenal weekend in Utah. Ended up going from last in KA to like 4th on Sunday as he was filling in for Cole Kleck. And he just keeps building up more momentum, and it keeps getting there. And there's going to be some weekend where it finally bubbles over, and so I'm going to keep picking him until it happens. But I think it's this weekend. But you can see the momentum building every weekend with him. He's been super strong. I have Marin Kremer. I have basically Burrell Art for 3, 4, and 5. It's Marin, Pedro, and Diego. They were super fast. Marin and Diego were super fast at Road America for USPKS. They were driving amazing, and Pedro was super fast at Utah as well. I mean, he podiumed both days. I think he podiumed both days, and Marin podiumed on Sunday, if I remember right. But they've all been super fast. They've been on a really strong run recently. They're going to be fighting in that top 5 for sure. I was hoping to see Cameron Weiberg in there because I like picking him, but he is not on the list. You said he was at the warm-up weekend. I'm not sure if they just haven't entered yet or what, but if he's there, I'm going to at least shout him out as well because he always does super well in CRGs as well. Him and Pauly would be really hard to beat out there.
No, that was the other big part of it. So with Speed Concepts, I texted with Mike and Alex. They texted Mike Speed to ask him about the Pauly announcement, and he said they just have Pauly Massimino and Austin Garrison for the SKUSA SummerNationals. So Weinberg was not at the warm-up weekend. I was actually checking the warm-up weekend results for a couple notes of it, and one thing that threw me off completely, which I had no idea what was up with this, but Bryson Morris went out for one of the days. And then I didn't see him on. Well, no, he did run the second day, so that could be a bit of a wild card going into the weekend because he's not on the entry list. And obviously, Braden, you've run against Bryson Morris at Castle Motorsports Park. You know how that goes. That kid is wicked fast there.
Yeah, I raced against him in 2020, and if he's racing, I would definitely say he's going to be top 2, top 3 for sure. Just because you know, especially if he's running with RPG, you get the RPG horsepower behind him. He was probably, I mean, really, him and I were like kind of class of the field in 2020. So if he's in the field, definitely knock Norberg down and put him up.
And a few other notes. I mean, so Diego Ramos swept the heat races through the weekend. He was quick. I mean, and in both of them, right? We go to running backwards here, Braden. You've run this track backwards. Dalton, I don't believe you have. You've only run the ski jump, if I'm not mistaken, right? Oh, I missed him right there. Emery, have you run Newcastle on the backwards national layout that we've run on this week?
I haven't run the national layout, but I've run the backwards layout with the extra shark fin corner twice. So kind of. Okay.
Well, Braden, I know you've run this way here. Can you break down what this layout really comes down to? Because you got a final sector of the racetrack where you don't have the last lap passing. You can be in the lead. You can defend pretty easily for the second half of the lap. And it didn't seem like qualifying looked as much of a mess running this way.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You know, it's kind of crazy how you can reverse the direction around and it completely changes the dynamics of the track. Obviously, forwards, it's very, very draft heavy. Backwards, you have a lot more downhill braking zones. The braking is a lot more important. You have generally you can run higher sprocket just because the straightaways don't seem like even close to as long as they do forwards for some reason, just because I think like the speeds are entering the mat or something, or at the end of the straightaway as well, it's not nearly as great a passing zone. So generally the track feels a lot more flowy, more tight, just a little bit slower. So I think, it definitely races a lot, I think, better, just because, you know, when you're passing, it's always a lunge going backwards, whereas when you're going forwards, it's always just somebody just motoring by you. But yeah, I think it's crazy how much the track changes when you just reverse the direction around.
And Emery, from your two experiences of the track, you ran it both obviously in the KA class, which had big numbers. Starts are a little bit sketchier going down to turn number 1. How sketchy you think they would be this week, or the first lap in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think the outside of turn 1 is a really sketchy place to be in general. I mean, you saw it, especially, I remember in USPKS, we had a 60 kart field. Everyone started in KA, and it was a complete mess the first lap of the final. And I mean, you start in the midfield with that layout, it's a complete crapshoot. And really, I mean, it's just part of it's down to you go into turn 1 heavy braking zone, you go into the second corner with the reverse national layout. It's also a heavy braking zone. And then also like it just throws around. You also see that layout. Like if you're on the front couple rows, you can pretty easily get shuffled out the first lap or so, just because the first 2 corners you have such heavy braking and you have to really defend heavy, bunches of pack up. So I think the start's going to be more chaotic than what you might see on the normal national layout. But at the same time, I mean, like Braden said, it's a really flowing racetrack. And I mean, I think it makes it more technical. I think you can see it both ways with the racing, in terms of you might see more incidents, more collisions, but at the same time, like, it's a driver's track. There's not as much runoff. It doesn't feel that way, at least. And I mean, it's a fun layout.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it a few times, both at the Pro Tour and at the Stars Series, with a kid that starts second gets run off at the exit of the first corner and spins and goes all the way to the back of the field. I think it happened to Wettengel, if I'm not mistaken, at the KA Stars field over at Newcastle. Am I right about that one, Aaron? I think it was something like that with him getting turned in front of the field.
It was kind of weird. There was somebody like further back in the field that I think tried to push it 3 or 4 wide, and something happened there. And then Tyler got tagged him. He went around, collected a bunch of people. And I remember I was watching from the fence because I'm not running this year. And I just saw them all fan out. And all of a sudden, there's cars spread out across the grass and you're losing 6, 7, 8 cars. But it was the same thing last year when we ran here for PKS. When I was running, there would always be wrecks on the start. There'd be 3, 4 incidents just on the first lap out there. I think how hard it is, how tight the corner is going into I-70 backwards and stuff like that just kind of makes it so that sometimes that stuff happens. And when it happens pretty big.
You had the front row and wiped out in 2020 and SKUSA Race 1 in KA.
That's right.
Yeah. I think it was Taron Odom and Hayden Jones coming into turn 2 there, just completely wiped out.
I wasn't there for that weekend. That's like the one Pro Tour event at Newcastle that I've missed in a few years, but I remember hearing about that. And it was just a really, it was, like I said, front row just gets taken out on the start, which obviously sucks for both of them, and it leads to a big incident.
Right. Braden brought up a good point, too, about this layout, though, with it being lunges. We talk about the pro shifter class, and certain tracks seem to kind of favor, that class is so much harder to run nose to tail. Caleb, you're a shifter guy by trade. Lunges are really, having hairpin corners where you can stuff a guy from way back. That's the best way, I think, to kind of get the shifter guys to have more passes in the race. Would you agree?
Yeah, you want longer straightaways and you want tight hairpins. I mean, I've ran this track in a gearbox before, forwards and backwards, and I personally prefer it backwards. The last actual major passing zone you can do, you can throw it in the 90s, but cell tower backwards, what you're normally coming out of when you go into the hairpin, that's another good passing opportunity. There's also that runoff too. So typically guys' heads get a little big because if you overstuff it, then you have the cut through right behind it to kind of go off into. So I think this is probably going to run better for shifters. And I think Stars, obviously it was a similar track layout, but they did the Monza turn, I think was maybe the only difference. But I think this is going to be a good shifter track for them.
Yeah, which takes out that whole going into the scoreboard corner out, which that corner, that's like a long braking zone. Braden, would you agree? The going into the scoreboard this direction is probably one of the longer braking zones that we have on the national circuit for any kind of series. It seems like you guys are on the brakes for a long time going into that corner.
Yeah, that's one corner where another thing that changes when you're going backwards is just this track has been run the forward direction for so long that you get all the exits that they just have no grip under braking. So that's one corner where if it had normal grip level would be just normal, but it always just seems like it's pretty slick under the braking. So the braking zone is almost 20% longer, I would say. And you have the entry curb. Well, it's normally the exit curb, but the entry curb where people try to swing out, and that just decreases the braking efficiency as well. So it's definitely a good passing opportunity.
Well, we'll break down more of the racetrack and a few more keys to the race weekend here to keep an eye on in a little bit. We're going to take one more commercial break and, of course, answer any questions you guys got or comments and topics we should talk about here for KC Happy Hour. We'll be right back.
At New Gen Motorsport, we're committed to using our 10-plus years of experience and knowledge to help grow the sport of karting from the bottom up. Our goal is to make karting more accessible to the average person, lessening the financial burden of getting started, and making the learning curve as small as possible. Our passion is training and developing drivers, mechanics, and engineers to not only be the best they can be in karting, but also for careers in the much larger world of professional motorsports. A strong foundation makes building bigger easier. Let us be that foundation for your karting and motorsports career. Be part of the new generation of motorsport. Contact us today to schedule your test day, arrive and drive race event, or to inquire about how we can help get you started in your own new gen racing kart.
Kart Store USA is a kart parts supplier that racers and retailers can count on when they need reliable advice and service. We focus on servicing all racers with honesty and pride while maintaining customer satisfaction. We carry a full stock of Kart Republic and Tony Kart chassis, as well as IAMI and Vortex Rock engines. We've also got a host of other parts available and in stock, such as products from Rev Performance Materials, Jecco Racing Seats, and more. We have a 100% satisfaction guarantee, and on top of that, if your order exceeds $200, shipping is on us. Check out all we have to offer today by visiting us online at kartstore-usa.com. Looking to join one of the fastest growing kart clubs in the United States? Check out the Mississippi Karters Association. Located at the legendary Spring Ridge Raceway in Jackson, Mississippi, the MKA and Drive Your Line Kart Shop have already kicked off their 2022 year with a massive increase in drivers and some awesome racing. Even if you don't have a kart yet, you can get involved by checking out the Drive Your Line Kart Shop, which is an official dealer of Comp Kart, Tillotson, and Margay chassis, as well as Briggs & Stratton, Tillotson, Yamaha, and IME engines. If you're a new, returning, or current racer, the MKA and Drive Your Line Kart Shop can help you get in the seat and on the track in the central Mississippi region. Check them out online on Facebook or at misskarting.com and driveyourline.com. From 4-stroke to 100cc to 125cc and beyond, Technokart USA has a winning option for you. Based out of Des Plaines, Illinois, Technokart USA offers both chassis designed to win in all divisions of North American karting and a top-level race support program at the U.S. Pro Kart Series, Route 66 Sprint Series, select Cup Karts North America races, and both the Rock Vegas and SKUSA SuperNationals. Podiums, wins, and championships are waiting for you whenever you're ready to get on a Technokart. For more information, follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/TechnokartUSA.
All right, guys, I screwed up majorly. I completely forgot. Dalton Haynes, so important. What is your X30 top 5 picks, man? You're still muted.
You have him muted. You have him
No, I
muted.
have him muted. No, he muted himself.
I did not mute myself. That was the second time that's happened, and neither time.
Hands off the keyboard.
Anyways, for my X30 picks, I did some homework. All right, I made some calls, and I found out some things that you guys might not be knowing about.
That's
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
For my,
Yeah. All right.
I would like to put in 5th place Pauly Massimino from going to the CRG. I saw what he did last club race. Very nice. Very nice. The car's very nice. Top 5, Pauly. Top 4, for my 4th pick, I would like to put Pedro Hildebrand. All right. Obviously, he's very fast. And Marin almost won the club race at Newcastle until he was passed by Norberg because he didn't block. Rookie mistake. He would have just blocked Norberg every single lap. You've been fine. But then I'll put Marin Kremers in P3. P2, I would like to put a 13-year-old, I think all of us know, in Parker DeLong. All right. I know none of y'all knew that he was in senior now, but he is. And he will be coming with a very nice, very fast kart with RPM, with Jeremy Fletcher as his teammate. I think Fletcher might get in the top 5 one of the days, but Parker DeLong will be in P2. Possibly P1 if he takes out Norberg like I told him to. All right.
Jesus.
Norberg P1. I don't want to say it. Norberg P1. I don't want him to. I'm telling all of you drivers right now, either block him every lap or punt him. I'm tired of it, okay? Block him. Either block or punt. There's no other option, all right? That's it.
Okay. All right. And with that, Dalton has once again put us on the hit list from every single race official out there for encouraging violence. So I'm sorry. I guess we did say he's officially on the show a whole lot. Damn it, Dalton. Thought we could be good here for tonight. He's probably right, though. He's probably right. So let's go ahead and let's go through some of the viewer comments here. This is another one that we just got thrown in. So this one's, would a guy like Braden Eves get back in the seat if the win was, say, $20,000? Do you think a bigger purse would help retain drivers from jumping to cars as quick? Braden, what do you think?
I don't really know how you would figure out a way to get the purse to $20,000, but if the purse was $20,000, I would probably be at every single one of those races if I was allowed to. So, I mean, yes, the answer is yes, but I don't really know where that money would come from. That's a lot of money.
That is a big chunk of change. But yeah, not only I think would you probably wouldn't delay the jump to cars, but you probably get a lot of guys like Braden that would be able to structure deals to stay and run, or make more of an effort to go and run. Because I mean, Braden, you were set to run this weekend. You know, purse is $2,500 to win per day. You almost had a deal come together to go run and play for free. and 20 grand, you'd be walking away with a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, I mean, honestly, if the purse was that high, I think every single team would be sponsoring at least one driver that they thought would be in contention for the win. Yeah, so I mean, if there was a way to get sponsors and get some get a big purse like that, I mean, even if it was like 7,500 or 10 grand, I would say you'd probably have quite a few more top level drivers. And if it was like 7,500, SKUSA wouldn't be small this weekend. There would be 45, 50, 60 entries, I would say.
Yeah. And again, a lot of that because like what Braden's alluding to with team sponsoring guys, the teams will take can set the deals up where they're going to make a big percentage of that commission, and that will fund that guy, and they'll at least get their money back and then some. It's basically gambling, right? But it's no different than anything else with racing or with pro sports. They'd get a good chunk of that purse money. So you'd have guys, privateer operations. You'd have Dalton. Well, we lost Dalton. His Walmart internet has finally gone out on his budget iPhone connection. But you'd get guys like him that would show up back of their pickup truck, run on their own, and try to take the 20 for themselves and fund themselves. And then you'd also get guys like Braden or pros that would get hired to come back in. So you'd get stronger fields. Braden's 100% right. I think you definitely wouldn't see as small a field as we've seen last week. Now that Dalton's back in here,
I had that. All right. We've been talking about this for a while, okay? I bring this up every time, all right? These people with SKUSA and USPKS make money, all right? They make if you do the math, they make a lot of profit. You could do this, all right? I am making no money. I'm losing so much off of these races. If they would just put in enough money for the top 10, I swear the field would be so big. Like, they wouldn't even want that many people to. Oh my gosh. I would put in so much more money. Like, I would work literally every day. You'd see me working with Kart Chaser. I'd be working as a plumber, electrician, everything. They do it in dirt karting. Me and Xander literally talked about this at Road America, okay? They put like 50 grand to win races in dirt karting. You know how easy dirt karting is? It's a literal circle, all right? Okay.
All right, but you got to give a little bit of some clarity there, Dalton. Dirt karting is the funniest thing, and I've talked with a few higher ups that deal with dirt go-karters. And don't get me wrong, all of us karters can fall into this boat here, Dalton. And what you're saying is halfway to how the dirt karters think. These guys, I mean, you think dirt karting, dirt oval racing, that is hardcore, red-blooded Americans. You are not talking about social justice warriors. And what I want to lead off by that, is these guys are all about freedom and making a huge generalization. They don't like big government, right? They don't want socialism or communism, but they are communists because they want everything. They want $0 entry fees. They want someone else to pay for everything. And the promoters, they will throw up crazy money. The dirt karting market, outside of a select few that have a lot of manufacturer backing, like the Maxxis tire guys, because there are tire wars because it's an open tire scene at most of the races. There's a handful of spec tire series, but it's a little more commonplace to have open tires there because the guys will show up with 20 different prep sets for 20 different track conditions. The promoters, you get a lot more independent promoters because a dirt kart track is a lot cheaper to rent than a sprint kart track. The reason why, there's no rental karts on a dirt oval track. It's a smaller footprint. There's a lot more of them around. So any one of the 6 of us idiots could go put on a race there a heck of a lot easier than we could put on a race at a sprint kart race. I'm not saying that anyone could do it on no money. It costs money to put it on, but the barrier to entry is lower to being a dirt kart race promoter than there is in the sprint kart community. So, all right, my theory is I'm going to get everyone to fall in love with my racing and how I'm going to promote my race. I'm going to go broke on my first race, go break even, throw up crazy money, throw up $10,000 for Dalton to win out of the back of his pickup truck. And then Dalton's going to come back and race with me again next week. But here's the thing. There's another redheaded idiot down the road from me that is going to do the exact same thing next week and go broke, have no profit at all, and that's where Dalton's going to go race. He's not going to come back to me when I raise my entry fees because I did one,
I'll put 20K out.
Race. No, see, that's what I'm saying. There's another redheaded idiot right there, Emery. So Straight up, the dirt karting model, yes, there is pay racing. Yes, there are guys that make a living racing dirt go-karts. Is the industry as a whole a sustainable model? Absolutely not. It is not good at all, and it's not something we should try to emulate. Should we try and do what Braden's alluding to, get outside sponsorship, what Aspen Fuel stepped up, throwing $6,000 onto the purse for Pro Shifter at Utah? That's awesome. We need more stuff like that. You look at what the Lone Star Grand Prix, the race that Alan Rudolph is promoting down at his track at Speed Sports Racing Park. They have a trucking company that threw up, I think, $30,000 for their event in 2020 or 2021, one of the two. I think it was 2020. Maybe it was 2021. 30 grand in total to be paid out amongst the classes. So this is a state race, trying to be promoted as a big independent race. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to talk down on the event. It's an awesome event. But they got $2,500 to win K100 Senior for a 2-day show, you know? So if you can get these outside companies, that money's not as bad. But what Dalton's talking about with dirt karting, no, Dalton, you are way off.
No,
way off.
You do not have to break the bank. SKUSA and USPKS, it's just them, all right? You have Rock. Yeah, okay. No one cares about Rock, all right? Rock's fun, okay? You have fun to do.
Dalton, you are treading so tread carefully, Dalton.
You got
We're losing all of our sponsorship after this episode. Oh my god.
You have USPKS and SKUSA, all right? These two, it's two. It's not a whole bunch of red-haired guys going up and putting up 20K. They will not break the bank on a 10K to win race. I don't want. Okay, it's $2,500. That is nothing. You spend on average 6 to 8 grand a race. Okay, if I could just have 10 to make 2K profit, that's easy. They're not breaking the bank on a 10K win race.
I think,
or pay the top 10 and do 5 to the winner. Grand Nationals prove that. Grand Nationals.
See, that would work.
that was a one-off event,
Well,
though.
okay. Can we think back to
his
hold
top
on?
10 could work because here's the problem, Dalton. They put 10K to win. Norberg wins this weekend. Then the next week on the show, you're gonna go, "This is so stupid. Why does Norberg keep getting paid $10,000?"
I'm not. Because listen, if there's 10K to win, then Norberg's not winning because someone's gonna take him out. That's exactly.
Braden, what were you saying about the grands being a one-off there?
I wasn't talking about the grands, but in 2020, SKUSA did put up really good money, and it was like, it went way back too. I remember like there was money to win like all the way back to 10th or something.
No,
yes, there was.
No, it was a lot. No, there was not.
Yeah, there was.
No, it
I
was
swear.
$2,500 to win per main event, but it was high money because it was the top 3 paid each day. We raced Friday, we raced Saturday, we raced Sunday. So if you swept the weekend, you get $7,500. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. I don't think we paid top 10 for double SummerNats. But
I'm pulling it up. I'm pulling it up.
My man right here for $10,000, Ariel Castro has voted to be the man. They got Ryan. Ryan takes his legs absolutely well for a guy that's dominant. He knows exactly that. These, when you win that much, you get a target on your back. But
if I qualify, anyone who qualifies third and Norbert qualifies first, they're full throttling him. They know they have to. All right.
Dalton.
Jesus Christ, Dalton.
Dalton, do you want us to have a podcast next week and get paid?
I don't know.
whenever you work?
I think if we want to make the racing better, we need to take the top 5's engines and make them all swap around. That's what we need to do.
That's a good one.
They've done everything else. I want to add that on too. We didn't. I can't remember if we touched on it back after the Post Road America podcast. They've done pump around with fuel. They've, I think, held the tires, and at Road America they gave them stock coils. So they couldn't say it was like a special coil for the X30. So I mean, they aren't swapping the motors, but they just have good stuff.
If I won the lottery and was able to swap to Norberg's engine at like any big race, that would be. I think I would start crying because I would be so happy.
Yes.
Shut up. Oh my
I would have a
goodness.
mental breakdown.
You two are terrible.
We're not terrible. We're the normal average person. And Norberg's just winning everything with RPG. And we're all tired of it, all right? Dude, everyone's tired of it. Ryan Perry's tired. All the team ball, everyone's tired of it. Ryan Perry's the worst. That dude, he's mad. All right.
They're all trying to win. They're all trying to win. But hey, Jim Zillis did bring up a good point. It has been done actually, Braden. I forgot. They switched the motors around at the Academy Series, right? And so it's not, it's like a step further than like the Rotax World Finals, because Rotax is like a lottery to get, then you get stuck with the motor for the week. They swap their stuff around between rounds.
Well, they did that at Rotax Grands a few years ago, where this is when Rotax had kind of been phased out and they were trying to bring it back, where they had built into the entry fee. It was just, it was not expensive at all. It was like maybe a couple $100, but everyone rented an engine and everyone got an engine from the series. It was all sealed, all that. I wish they would do that nowadays.
Yeah, it's a cool theory. It disrupts the industry a lot from an engine builder side, right? It's no different than what we talk about of wanting to have, shorter race weekends, not wanting to have these test weekends. At the end of the day, enough people have asked for it, pushed for it. The industry's kind of molded around it. So when you talk about something like lottery engines at all the major national races, that's a huge shock to the system.
Let's just do it for SuperNats. You know how much that IME and SKUSA would be making off of that? It would be ridiculous the amount of money they would make off that. I'm sure they would be open to it, and it would be way. But all of us drivers would be so happy if we were able to get more equal engines in X30.
Not all of us. Not
again.
Well, that Dalton. But that's what I mean, though, right? Like, they would be the ones making the money, and all the engine builders that bank on that race, just like the team guys do, to get a lot of customers. Everyone in the sport banks on the SuperNats and now Rock Vegas as like, okay, I'm going to make a lot of money in November. That'll kind of save me through December and a little bit. And then depending where you are, sometimes you get stuff through the winter. But it would be,
Ryan needs to be.
Ryan will be here next week. All right, don't.
Or open up the engine rules for SuperNats so we can have the engine builders can do whatever.
X30 unlimited.
Yeah.
The things I would do.
Go. Well,
I'll get a high rev engine for SuperNats.
Yeah, we'll see somebody blow up 5 motors every heat. There's just guys like coming down the front straight and locking up the motor. That would be fun. Let's make it like Formula 1 where you actually have to preserve a motor. That's what Caleb used to do in 80cc, isn't it?
No, you just have the qualifying engine and the race engine like they used to do.
That's called 80cc shifter.
Yeah, or the Formula A and Formula Super A guys with the 18 to 20,000 RPM motors. Those were pretty sick here in those.
Dude, I want one of those motors. Those motors are so cool.
Let's bring back Leopard. How about that?
Shut up, Braden. Get out of here.
Let's just go to a build.
That's not even vintage. It's just like, you think that's vintage, but it's not. It's literally just the previous generation.
And that was my childhood talking about.
Yeah, but it revved to 17,000.
That was pretty cool, but it wasn't as cool as revving to 20,000. 20,000 is cool. Before we get any more
KA class. It's just air-cooled 100cc. Just build the shit out of a KA. And just spin it to like 22 grand.
All right, now we're destroying the
You're advocating for K100? Get out of here.
Just make Yamaha
No, we'd still have like regular KA, but then we'd have like regular KA and like KA Unlimited, and that's the new X30.
You guys are all out of sorts. The engine slander's been crazy. Dalton's shaking his head, and someone asked if they thought Dalton was a new Pauly. I agree. I think he's worse. I think we've gotten we've regressed.
We have somehow downgraded.
We have downgraded in a major way because we are on everybody's radar now. This is crazy. We're going to send it off here for the night. Most of these guys will be up at SummerNats. Nonetheless, we appreciate you guys tuning in every single week. We'll have some of the drivers on next week. Norberg will be on. Pauly will be on. We'll have everyone that competed, and we may have some of these knuckleheads to the side of me. I don't know about that guy, though.
All right. I just want to say something. We're going into another weekend, all right, guys? Another SKUSA weekend, okay? Norberg won the club race. All right,
you're done. You're cut off.
All right, that's it. Nope. That's it. He's out for the night. Later, Dalton. We'll see you guys on the live show, on the broadcast. We'll be ready here. Obviously, Caleb, a little bit of as someone else chiming in for you, saying, "Hey, you haven't said anything." I think you're not afraid to say anything anymore, are you, Caleb? Any bad experiences?
You know what? I feel bad because it's about 10 o'clock tonight. He'll get a message on Facebook from one of his friends. with me, it was one group of series people, or engine class, I should say. Dalton, it's like an entire teams. It's a series, so Godspeed to you, Dalton Haynes.
RPG's gonna send Danny Formel and take him out on Saturday night.
We love the kid. We love the passionate. Dalton, we'll give you back in. Say thanks as always. Thanks you guys for tuning in to KC Happy Hour, and we will see you guys next week. If you don't tune into the broadcast, we go live Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time.
No.